Greetings to all you witches, warlocks, and ghouls out there. Welcome back to another episode of Gates to Chaos. I'm your host, the Gatekeeper. I apologize for my absence last week. I just needed a little bit of a break. Adult life kind of hit a little hard, nothing to worry about, just a lot of paperwork. I bought a new car and had to go pick it up, and then I was invited for once to some things for a friend. But yeah, I'm back with spooky season nigh upon us. I think this episode is going to be one that is relatively well received because it is all about how to properly cleanse your home. This episode kind of popped up because an old acquaintance of mine from high school reached out to me and said that they were having some issues with something talking to their child, where their child would talk to things in the closet and point and say, "Zombie, zombie." And when they addressed it with them and their partner, that the light started flickering and they started hearing noises. Their partner's cell phone would call theirs without touching it. And so they wanted to know what they could do in order to get rid of any negative energy or spirit energies in their home. So this is going to be my method of dealing with this sort of stuff. By all means, I am not the grand poobah of anything. Everything shared on this podcast is obviously my opinion, but that's what makes all podcasts interesting, in my opinion, because we all have a unique perspective, a unique take to things. So without further ado, let's open up this particular gate and start our descent. The important thing when you decide that you need to cleanse your home, whether it be for just any negative energies that might already be present in the house or that have built up, or whether it's in my friend's case, a spirit that has breached your walls, is to always leave a method of egress for them. Before you start your cleansing, always leave a window or a door open to the outside, or have a partner with you in order to assist in this. Leave the room that you're going to chase all of the entities out of, the room that you're going to use as their point of exit, for last. My personal method of cleansing is one that's fairly popular among everyone nowadays. It helps that, I own my home, and so I don't have to worry about offending or upsetting the landlord if they don't allow things being burned. So I am a big fan of smoke cleansing, and that's because that smoke can get into every nook and cranny, leaving no point untouched, and I'm going to be offending some people here, but sage is a good way of cleansing things. You can use Palo Santo, there's many different things, but it's easy to just grab a sage bundle from even your closest Spencers, because they have their own thing. I try to buy mine from local shops in order to support the community, but whatever herb you choose to use for your smoke cleansing is fine. A good one for chasing out negative entities is St. John's Wort. That can also be used for counteracting any maledictive spells or energy sent your way from another practitioner. But it's all original to the practitioner itself. So some people aren't comfortable using sage anymore. But yeah, so when you start, you're going to need to charge whatever herb you are burning with the intent. It's not enough for you to just light your herb and go from room to room to room. I mean, yes, all herbs have their properties associated with them. And so it might be effective, but it will never be as effective than if you talk to your herbs, if you infuse them with the energy that you're wanting. Because each herb is never just like, oh, that's just for cleansing, so you're going to infuse it with the energy that you want it to have. You're going to tell it what you want it to do. And so that way, whenever you light it and it's smoking and the smoke is filling the air, it's only with that property that you want it to have. And obviously, smoke cleansing is not the only cleansing out there. You can use even your holy water, whether that be moon water or water that you have charged with cleansing energies in and of itself. Or Florida water is a popular one. Put it in a spritz bottle, like that people use for their hair, and just go around the rooms and spritz it. And there's also other methods, like if you read I'm probably butchering her name, and so I apologize for that, but it's Lyda Angeles, her witchcraft theory and practice. There's a method in there called Reeving, where you cleanse each room individually, and it involves a white candle and your athame, and you trace the walls, and it's like you're cutting off each room from each other and excising any of the negativity inside of it, and then you move on to the next room. But so yeah, whatever method you choose to use it. I prefer smoke cleansing. I just do. But so you're going to start on the level that is furthest away from whatever egress you leave the spirits or the energy. I start in my basement, and because that allows me access to my garage as well. And so I leave the garage door open. And so I'll start in the garage and I'll work my way into my basement. You make sure you get every nook and cranny. You open, like I have storage space underneath the stairs. And though we don't, live in it, we don't actively open it and close it a bunch or have anything to do with it other than just the stuff we shove in there for storage. You're going to open it and make sure that the smoke really gets in there, or you spritz the hell out of it, whatever you choose. Then once you get everything in that particular level done, which includes the cabinets in the bathrooms, it includes the bathrooms themselves. If you want to go the extra mile and open up a toilet lid and pour a little bit of smoke in there, I think that's a little overkill, but by all means, if you want to be that thorough, it'll only help. And then you move on to the next level, which for me is my main floor. The egress that I leave for these spirits is usually the one leading to my backyard, because I don't have to worry about any animals getting in from that, because my backyard is fenced, and that leaves a way for my dogs to get out if they so choose, away from the smoke. But I'll work my way up to the main level, and then I'll go all the way to the back of the house. And I start in the bathrooms there, and then I move to my temple room, and then I move to my bedroom, and then I move to the guest bedroom, and so on and so forth. All of the closets get saged or smoke cleansed, or whatever you're using. All of the bathtubs, I open up the showers, so that way everything is cleansed. You are ferrying you're leaving no sanctuary for any of that negativity, any of the energy you are getting rid of. You're leaving nowhere for it to reside in. You're leaving nowhere for the spirits to hide. The only thing that I need to caution people is absolutely keep something underneath. If you're using a sage bundle, keep it underneath, like a bowl underneath the sage bundle, because you will have embers that fall from it, and it can scorch your carpets. But if you're using like a censer with loose herbs inside of it that are smoking, then you don't have to typically worry about that. Just keep an eye on it, so that way you don't inadvertently damage your property as you are ferrying out the energies and spirits. So, once you go from room to room to room, you leave the room with the exit you are wanting the spirits to use last. When that is left, then you either, if you're using a partner, you tell them to open the door if it has been closed, or the door is already open, and you start farthest away from it, and you systematically I do it in lines, as if like I'm a 3D printer, you know. I'll do lines, leaving no way for the spirits to slip past the smoke or me and my cleansing energies that I'm pouring out, and I'll work my way to the door. And then once you get to the door, you firmly tell whatever is there to get out. I can be a little crass sometimes if things have built up for a while, or if I'm doing it for the first time, like whenever I first bought my house, I cleanse the hell out of it. But whenever I get to that door or that window, more often than not, I'll say, whatever is here, get the fuck out. And then I slam the door. And that's it. You've cleansed your home. You have to establish that space as yours. It is under your sovereignty. Once you have instructed everything to leave, and you after you've cleansed it and you shut that door, this next step is crucial. It's something that people tend to overlook. They don't necessarily think of it, and then they're surprised because they'll have a week or two of peace, for lack of term. They'll have a week or two of positive environment, and then slowly but surely they start having the same occurrences over and over, because things work their way back into the house. So as soon as you cleanse, you need to go to every door that leads to the outside. You can ignore the doors on the inside if you want. I personally do. I don't think there's any point in doing it if it's just doors that lead to other rooms, but you need to go to every door that leads to the outside and every window that leads to the outside. I've not heard of windows that just look into other bedrooms, but you never know. It might be out there. But you are going to seal them. You need to lock those points of entry. I personally also do the mirrors in my bathrooms. I'm not using them for any magical purposes. I'm not using them for any sort of summonings, and so I also will do the mirrors just for extra safety measure. Now, how you lock them is entirely up to you. I will draw a protective symbol on each window and door with my finger or my wand, and push the energy out. If you've dealt with any of like Donald Michael Craig or even pretty much like any of the Witchcraft 101 books, whenever they have you do the energy work in order to like draw the pentacle in the air or something, and you are leaving your energy behind, and as like a sort of like after effect, and you can almost see it, or it leaves almost like an afterburner on your eyes. That's what I'm talking about. You pour your intent into that protective symbol with the purpose to lock that window or door. I will make sure that I hear a distinctive click whenever I do it. So that way I know that it is sealed against anything wanting to enter. If you even wanted to go a step further, you could have a special key, like one of those old skeleton keys, even if you want to be super aesthetic about it. But that key can be charged, can be enchanted to lock any points of entry for your home. And then you go to every window and every door, and you turn it, and you envision that click, knowing now that it is locked. And again, if you want to be extra about it, you can even lock the mirrors as well, particularly the mirrors facing any windows or doors. Once your home is sealed from re-entry for the energies and spirits that you just expelled from it, then you put up your protections around the house, your protective wards, and everything like that. I'm not going to get too far into the wardings or anything like that, because that's going to be its own episode later on. But the way you can ward your homes are as numerous as any spell work can be. However, just for the sake of this episode, if people listening are already having issues, iron has long been associated with protective energies. A good way of protecting your home from negative entities and maledictive energies or spells coming your way is to take some iron railroad spikes. Do not take them from active railroads or railroads in general, even if you think they're inactive. Find a vendor for it, someone that is ethically taken them, or people that may produce them themselves. It doesn't have to be an actual railroad spike, one that was used in a railroad at some point. The big thing about it is iron. You could even take large iron nails and have similar effects. But you take them and you nail them into the four corners of your property, and they act as lightning rods for any negative entities or spirits trying to enter your home. Because people have trouble separating the fantasy sources from the historical sources, some people think that iron just negates magic. It's anti-magic because of its poisonous effects, for lack of a better term, against the Fae. But that's the thing, though. Iron's not harmful to all of the Fae. Like, there are some that aren't affected by it at all. They are as numerous and different as the different paths out there are. So iron does not dispel magic. It is protective, and it is associated with anti-negative magic and spirits, but it doesn't just nullify magic whenever it comes around it. But yeah, that's that. You've cleansed your home. You've sealed all of the windows and doors leading to the outside. And then you put your protections up around your living space. That's the proper way of getting rid of any spirits, any energies you don't want in your space. At least proper for me. Some people try and make contact with the spirits that are living in their home. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. And you can ask them, like, well, do you mean me harm? Do you dislike anyone living in this space with us? Whether that be my dogs or your cats or your birds or anything like that. And if you get an answer that you don't like, you don't have to put up with that. Your home should be your sanctuary. I understand that some spirits also need sanctuaries, but there's nothing that says you have to share your space. Nothing. You share your space with your allies, with your familiars. And that's a great segue for another topic that might be a little popular for spooky season here. Familiars. Contrary to popular belief, your familiar is not your pet. It is not your cat. Familiar is short for familiar spirit. It is a spirit that the witch, the warlock, the magician, whatever, has entered a contract with so to speak, in order to mutually benefit both parties. You give the spirit protection in the form of a spirit house, which skulls are really good forms for. But you give the spirit protection somewhere where it can stay when it's not helping, and in return, it helps protect you and your magic from energetic and spiritual interference. It's something that can help keep your magic separate from one another as well. Like if you are doing a bunch of spells at a time because you need to, and one of those spells happens to be maledictive, but then, you know, the next spell, you also need to do something positive for yourself. Familiars are great ways of keeping those energies separate. They stop the bleed over from one another. And I believe that is addressed by the sorcerer Jason Miller in his book Sorcerer's Secrets. Yeah, The Sorcerer's Secrets. Sorry, I've read a lot of books. Sometimes I get the titles a little mixed up. But your familiar is not your physical pet. Because of pop culture, because of the famous TV shows and everything, people think that Mr. Fluffy is their familiar. Because, oh, he comes and he sits by my altar whenever I practice. You can have very powerful psychic and energetic connections with your physical pet. I'm not saying that they can't help amplify your work, particularly if you both vibrate at the same frequency and you hit a resonance whenever you are in a circle together or ritual space. It doesn't have, not everyone practices with the circle. I'm not saying you have to use circles, but they are not able to perform all of the duties that are associated by the familiar spirit. One of the things that a familiar is supposed to do is to take hits for the practitioner. They stop the maledictive forces before they get to you. Do you really want your pet doing that? I have 2 dogs myself, and they are the only constant in my life whenever I move. They are the only family I have in any area I go, because I am separated from the rest of my family. Not separated meaning like we don't get along, but we don't live in the same states, let alone the same city. My dogs are my heart, and I would not want to give them the burden of being a familiar in order to take those hits for me before they reach me. Now, if you had a beloved pet that passed away and you want to reach out and petition it, or you feel that it is still around, and you reach out and you petition to your now deceased loved one, and you ask it if it would like to remain by your side as a familiar spirit, and you get a positive affirmation from it then yes, you can now have your familiar spirit be Mr. Fluffy. It is sad to lose a loved one, 100%. But that doesn't mean you have to say goodbye. However, if you get no response or a negative response from them, don't try to force it. A good way of sending out your call for a familiar spirit can be found in Keldon's book on traditional witchcraft. He will go out into nature, carve his circle around him, stating that nothing may cross that will harm him, etc. And he will send out a call to any spirits that may be open to working with him. But the great thing about Keldon is he doesn't just send out the call. He sends out the application, so to speak. He lists the requirements, whether you want a partner and a familiar spirit, or a more of a servant and a familiar spirit. You list the duties that you're wanting it to perform. Anything you can think of, you put it out there. So that way, the spirits that show up will hopefully match the qualities you are looking for in your familiar spirit. Because, again, the spirits are as numerous and different as the personalities that are here on Earth. Between us humans, not all of them are the same. Now, traditionally, the spirits will take the forms of animals whenever they're carrying out your will. That's something that's kind of stuck around from for lack of better term, the witch hunt days. But they're not confined to it. You can have a familiar spirit that when they show up, whether it be in your dream after you put out your call, or a general outline that shows up whenever you are sitting in nature waiting for an answer. They can be human appearing. They could show up looking like a dog, and then the next time they show up, they look human, or humanesque, or impish, or anything. Like, they are not confined to the form that they appear in. Now, if you are into chaos magic, you will have heard the term servitor, which are artificially created beings that the magician creates for a specific purpose. You can have a familiar spirit that you have technically created. They might not be as intelligent as some of the familiar spirits that you pick up. They might not be as useful as the ones that you make contracts with, but you can do it. And you can even find instances of that in like the Jewish Kabbalah traditions, where they create the golems to protect the practitioner. But again, familiars aren't something that you have to have. Don't be so desperate that you enter into a contract, or you try to force a contract with an entity that may not want to be there, or may not be there for your best interest, or for the purposes that you want it to have. Familiar spirits are always work. Not only do you give it a spirit home, typically you'll also give it offerings. You feed your familiar spirit in order to keep it strong. During the negotiation process is whenever you iron out how often you feed your familiar spirit, or what type of foods it likes, or whether you're going to give it a blood offering once a month or once every 6 months or whatever, in the form of 3 drops of your blood. You don't have to do that. You don't have to give any entity your blood. That might be a red flag for some people, but during the negotiation process, that's whenever you're going to discuss these things. Use a pendulum. Sketch out a yes or no cross, and you ask the entity in question questions. And if you're a coyote, or you choose to create a servitor to be your familiar spirit, keep an eye out. Servitors don't always follow the programming you laid down for them. It is quite frequently that they tend to start to deviate the longer they are in existence. They mutate. To quote Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way. And a servitor is no different. So there are going to be times where you have to deconstruct your created being in order to start fresh, because it might not be doing the duty you assigned it upon its creation. And a spirit ally that you have doesn't have to be your familiar spirit. Whether that be spirit allies in the form of your plants around your home, or the rocks that you work with, or anything like that. They don't have to be your familiar spirit, So, kind of looping back to the beginning of this podcast, when you cleanse, whenever you seal the doors, whenever you put up your protections, invite your spirit allies back if you want them in your home. But always invite your familiar spirit back, just in case it didn't take refuge in the spirit home you made for it. Make sure it knows that it is welcome in your home. Otherwise, you may offend it. It may leave. It's always a bad day when you call out to your familiar spirit and it doesn't answer. But with that, I think we're going to call this episode finished. It's the beginning of spooky season, so there's going to be more on the subject of All Hallows Eve, of spirits, and everything. But since this is the beginning, and a acquaintance of mine from way back in the day reached out to me asking for the first half of this podcast episode, I thought that was a good sign in order to discuss proper cleansing techniques in order to get rid of spirits from your house. The veil is thinning, so you're going to have more of this. And with that, if you are listening, I hope you are well. I hope your sanity is staying strong in this messed up world we're living in right now. If you have any questions for the Gatekeeper, please email me at gates.2 gates.chaos@gmail.com. That's gates.to.chaos@gmail.com. You can also message me on Facebook at Gates to Chaos Podcast. I'm also on Twitter. So I am out there for you to reach out to if you so choose. Whether they be questions on Magick, or you wish to share any of your paranormal encounters with me and you want them featured on this podcast, I am here to listen. I might not be able to reach out immediately because I do have a full-time job, but I will answer. Follow the podcast on YouTube. Give us a like and a subscribe. Give us a review on Apple if this is where you're listening. Follow us on Spotify, on Amazon, on Google. Help us feed the algorithm gods. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, pull up a chair around the fire. Stay for a spell. Join us as we start our descent into chaos. And before the clock strikes 3, check to make sure your doors are locked. Ignore the scratching on the walls, the sound of footsteps down your halls, and always, in dire emergencies, utilize your blanket of safety. Stay safe, stay sane, stay magical. And I'll see y'all next time.